clearly the best episode of this series is episode 5 of Obi Wan Kenobi. We finally get a bunch of answers, some things that I also already thought. If you check back on my episodes, I think it was 1 and 2 review or reaction, I suspected Reva was going to be some type of spy, and a spy she was, essentially a double spy for herself. She wanted Anakin for herself because of what he did to her and her family or friends that Anakin murked right in front of her, right? During Order 66, she was there. Obi-Wan ended up piecing that together and was actually able to kind of get into her psyche a little bit about not allowing the other people to essentially suffer the same way she suffered or they suffered at the hands of Palpatine, Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader, Order 66. She essentially agreed, and I'm actually a little surprised with how the stormtroopers, I guess, around Reva reacted to that, because it was like, where did they go unless they got murked too? I just know, yeah, they got dealt with. that's the only interesting thing there. And I know I just kind of sped past like the beginning parts of this because this opened up beautifully with the flashback scene of Obi and Anakin sparring, and yes, we got to see Hayden Christensen again. Little age, you know what I'm saying, but he still looks good enough to look like his young self from episode 2. And we got a nice little sparring session with them, and it kind of played throughout the episode to show how Obi-Wan remembers Anakin's tactics, his mindset. Being his master, he knows who Anakin is, so he's calling Anakin's moves as they're playing out. And then, you know, the only thing Anakin didn't see coming, of course, was the switch, the bait and switch between Obi and Reva, because Reva ended up finally getting her battle with Vader. And boy, what that was great. We finally got to see Vader do some Vader things. First of all, he was force grabbing the ship, yanked it down, ripped it open just for it to be a decoy as Obi and the crew on Jabim got away. He was like, oh, okay. And then of course he ended up feeling Reva's presence because she tried to sneak jab him, and he just was like with the force, you know what I'm saying? He was like, oh, you didn't think I knew who you were? Yo, when I tell you, Vader didn't even take out his lightsaber. Vader fought her with the force, one hand, just like a ninja. Just my man was lean with it and rocking with it against Reva in that moment. Oh, it was fire. It was fire, and she looked so reckless. And essentially, that really is the downfall of when you're not paying attention, you're not concentrated in that moment. She was so induced by her rage and quest for vengeance, much kind of like how Obi-Wan called Anakin's impatience and needing to prove himself in victory. Reva sloppily was trying to fight Vader, and Vader was just like, you know what I'm saying, looking like Neo from the Matrix, and completely demolished her. And it was interesting because earlier in the episode, he did crown her as Grand Inquisitor, and that's when my ears went up. I was like, oh, Vader up to something. Vader's up to something. And something he was. The Grand Inquisitor, of course, as we all knew and thought, even though we was just a little scared, just a little bit, Grand Inquisitor is still around, is still alive. He took his crown back from Reva as Grand Inquisitor. So that was also great to see answered. They really kind of cleaned up what we thought was a huge mess, but really it was kind of all lead ups. Now, I will say the only thing that they don't quite answer, outside of maybe Anakin freezing in that moment once he finally had Obi-Wan in his grasp, is of course episode 3, when the whole fire scene and how Vader decided not to walk through it and everything. Maybe, and I think this is how I've also still justified it with myself, is Anakin froze up and remembered Obi-Wan in that moment, and Vader also in that moment when he told Obi-Wan his torture had just began. I think it was starting with psychological, because Obi hadn't seen Anakin since the fight on Mustafar. So I think that's why he let Obi-Wan go away or get away in that moment, but he wasn't letting nobody get away after that. Now it's interesting to see that he actually left Reva, essentially left her alive. That was interesting. I don't know why he did that, and it almost looked like she still had her lightsaber, but I don't think so. I think she just had the hilt. So that was also interesting. But so those are really kind of like the two things that didn't quite answer. And you could say this did make up for the unnecessary chase scenes for Leia throughout this season. And it looks like they are trying to set up a season 2. I heard through the wind that they may have edited, if not the ending of episode 5, the ending of episode 6 to introduce or open that season 2. Hopefully they just kind of let it run its course, and if they can develop a season 2, they can. But this definitely cleaned up a lot of what we thought was going wrong with the show. And really, it wasn't too much that was really going wrong. It was just a lot of setup by Vader. Vader had this planned out. He didn't get what he wanted in the end. Of course, we won't see another big battle like that until, hopefully, a big duel, episode 6, the finale, between Vader and Kenobi. So, this episode, easy. I'm gonna go 9 out of 10. Just because the beginning was just ever so slightly slow. I'm gonna go 9 out of 10 on this episode. Definitely bumped this show back up. And then you could say each episode was kind of doing this anyway. But definitely a great episode. Going 9 out of 10. Let me know down in the comment section below your thoughts about the show so far, this episode and episode 5. Make sure you guys ignite the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so that way you notice my videos or my live streams. And for the YouTube algorithm, so that way we can sit back, chillax, see what's cracking. But your man Mike is signing out until the next video. Wait for it and keep it gaming.